Good morning, Abby Dagnese. How are you doing? And hi, my boy Erik.
Erik says, "Good morning, Mama." He says he's already said good morning to you a bunch of times. He says, but you
Yes,
weren't listening because you were too
yes.
busy doing your hair and your makeup in the mirror.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. I remember that. What little I can do. So we are hopefully, Erik, you can get P.T. Barnum, Phineas Taylor Barnum of Barnum and Bailey Circus.
Real quick, can I tell you this cool trick that Erik's showing me that he's
Sure.
been like doing with you, but you're just not paying attention?
Right.
So like after you brush your teeth and stuff and you're in your bathroom in the sink in the morning, like some of the drops of water that are like left in the sink, he's pushing them. And he's like, there was one time where like it made like a heart.
I'm going to pay more attention.
So he wants you, yeah.
Heart.
He wants you to like look down sometimes because
Okay.
he says that he says it's not just him, but like when it comes to water and the vibrations of water, it's actually pretty easy. He's to just play with, to explain it. He says to expand the water molecules. So sometimes he thinks it's funny because you're like, you know, half asleep in the morning, like getting ready, and he's doing these little like subtle things.
I'm like, wake up, Mama! Look what I'm doing.
You're just missing it.
Okay, I'm going to pay more attention. All right, so Mr. Barnum, are you present?
I'm already hearing, like when I was talking and when you were talking, I was already hearing like this echo of hello, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, that's so funny. Well,
welcome to the circus.
Thank you for agreeing to this. I just got to relatively recently watching the story about you, The Greatest Showman. I think it's just The Greatest Showman, not The Greatest Showman. And it was really so beautiful. Hugh Jackman sang the songs beautifully. Do you think that movie was an accurate depiction of your life?
He's actually answering that with a question, and he's saying, do you want it to be?
No, I want the truth. Is it? I mean, what percent of it?
Got this.
Okay. Spot on.
So he's presenting himself like in his ringmaster uniform, right, with the red jacket and stuff. He's got like a kind of a burly chest and a burly belly.
Okay.
Very unlike, is it Hugh Jackman that played him?
Yeah.
Very unlike him.
Oh, okay.
So he was actually, but he's got the big chops, I guess.
Okay.
Right? Big thick chops that come down in the hat. He's got this really great, like deep, burly laugh.
Okay.
So he's very honored, and he feels that he feels honored to be represented, but also misrepresented. He's not offended. He feels honored mostly. It was the energy that he felt upstairs. We'll say in heaven. When people watch the movies and the feeling of love, it just like he's holding like his, like going like this with his heart, and he's like showing how it really warms his heart and his belly. And he's bringing some love food.
A man after my own heart. All right, so what percent do you think, or can you at least point to key elements where you were misrepresented, maybe?
So he is bringing up the singing and the dancing because he wasn't so on cue and on point with it.
Okay, but maybe you don't sing. But I mean, as far as parts of your life, I guess I'm trying to say. I'm going to look up one thing as you're doing.
So the love story between the woman and
Jenny Lynn.
Yeah, that wasn't necessarily accurate. However, he did have the pleasure, he says, of a very loving wife. So it looks like he really did have a very loving, supportive, and he says he kind of had to have a supportive best friend relationship. But the buildup of the intimacy, it was for Hollywood. He says, but I wouldn't have it any other way, of course.
Okay. So, but did you have a love affair? You did not have a love affair with Jenny Lind, the singer?
We're not really necessarily talking about the singer. It's more the love affair of the young woman, like when they were little kids and like growing up together.
Oh yeah, right. His
That's
wife,
what I'm
his
talking
eventual
about.
wife. Yeah, right.
Now, as far as Jenny Lind goes, it was there was a very passionate interaction. And he says that's all I want to say about that.
Okay. So it wasn't
he doesn't really want to talk about that.
Okay. It wasn't just business.
He doesn't really want to talk about it.
Okay.
And I feel like it's because like he also I feel like he might have cheated on his wife with her. So he doesn't like, okay, so the reason why is because he doesn't like that there's so many other important factors about him that's just so irrelevant. And he says it's inconsistent tales of truth. And it's not what he wants to be known for.
Okay. Well, let's talk about any other parts of the movie that you feel were lies, basically, or misrepresentations. Because a lot of this, when I interview, historical figures, is I want our notable figures. I want them to get an opportunity to clear up misunderstandings. So there's your chance.
He had a lot more political views that he would have liked outlined that were really important to him. One of them was actually women's liberation. Wow. That movement at the time, he tried to change some laws, and he had some really great persistence tactics, he says, with being able to change minds of men that during that era were very pro-men. He believed very much in the workforce getting what they deserved financially. Oh. And the work that he did was from the heart. Yeah. And as much as he was, he says, shall we say, a sleight of hand, he says it came from the heart. It wasn't because I was a shyster. It wasn't because I was a gangster. I made bad judgments based off of my blind faith, he says, in people and in humanity. And he's saying privilege got in the way, but I think that he's referring to the other politicians, the people around him with power, and how his beginnings were not of privilege. No. So it's like they didn't like him coming into the arena and playing. And then it was he's using the word absurd, really, for him to make a living off of the adventures he had every day, he says. And that's what he's choosing to call his job, was adventures.
Wow. Yeah, but you were very good to your employees, rather. Everyone who worked for you, right?
He said, yes, because I believed in them. And that's something that our workforce is missing today.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So looking back, do you feel like you were scamming the public at all?
He's saying, now, Elisa, my dear, he says, now that's just a matter of your perspective, I suppose.
No, it's not my perspective. I do not judge.
And where your morality were to lie, in the sense of, am I a cheat? Am I a scoundrel? Or am I just bringing the adventures and happiness to light in ways that people, I dare to say, would call impulsive, neurotic, anti-feminist, anti-liberal, juvenile. Oh, he's very eloquent when he talks.
Wow, of course, he's a ringmaster.
He says he loved what he did, and he did what he loved, and that's how he wants his life to be remembered. by liberating the people that had a say, that were the people who didn't get a say.
Well, tell us about, you bought an enslaved woman, apparently. I just read on the internet real quick. Tell me about that. If you're all for women's lib, or did you buy her only so that she could be freed? I mean, I don't know. But what's behind that story?
He's laughing.
Okay.
He's explaining it as I bought the impulsivity of the experience for that of somebody which deserved the freedom of chance and choice.
Okay.
I can tell he was a politician, just the way he's talking.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah. So, well, all right. So what happened to that woman?
She believed, as I did in her. She met and she married and she moved on, as we all do.
Good. I can't remember if she was, I don't even know if she was.
I wish her eternal happiness, and she knows forever I do.
All right. Was she a performer?
First off, he's like, right before you asked that question, I heard him saying, "I'm not a scoundrel."
Oh, okay. No, I don't think you are. Of course.
I'm sorry, what was the question?
Was she part of the show? She probably was, I guess.
She was part of my movement.
Oh, okay, interesting. All right, so how do you feel like you treated what I just looked up on the internet, the circus freaks? I don't like to call them that, but there's probably a more politically correct way to say it. But
he has another term for you. They're called my friend.
Oh, that's nice. I mean, just unique people, unique biological people.
They literally were family friends. They were sitting.
You treated them with a lot of love, right?
They feasted together. They grew bonuses together as like financial bonuses when he did shows. He says,
gave them a family, and then we didn't have one. It was very difficult for people like that to have families. So it's kind of cool that you created a family for them.
He says, yes. He says, when we were earthbound, we cared for one another like no else. He says, those were my brothers and sisters, and we understood each other in ways that during that era and during right now, people don't get the opportunity to. He says it was out of love. It was out of the instinct of 100% pure God love and emotion that we had for each other. We treated each other as humans, even though humans would say we didn't, because to them at the time, at that era, they were not humans.
Can you tell me about the way you feel like you and your troupe treated the animals that were part of your circus?
So as that they were.
Huh?
As that they were. As you just said, animals. So I feel like, I think he was probably of the era of the 1800s, right? So it wasn't, I just got a puppy, right? And I'm sitting here and I'm like, I'm going to get her bows, and I'm going to get her like nice pink bed, I'm like going on.
But it was not that sentiment about animals that you like everyone else in that era kind of consider them subhuman. Is that what it is?
Right.
Not as much value in their soul as a human soul. Is that what you're saying?
There was superiorism with the creatures, as any wild animal kingdom employee would know. That is how it is now. If you're not, then you're not in control of the creature. Right. So he's very firm and strict about still his beliefs about retaining proper animal control. Yeah. However, when he was his earthly being, he didn't look at obviously things like he does now.
Oh, of course not.
He's saying, if the question is, do I regret the treatment of my creatures? He says, why would I entirely treat them as different than my friends? He had people that were in control of the animals that were like in charge of feeding them.
Right.
It's not like he was the one that went around like feeding them and
Right.
doing all that. And it's like during that era, there wasn't a thought process that there wouldn't be an endless supply of tigers and rare elephants.
Oh yeah, right.
Yeah,
right.
it wasn't the thought process with the world that these creatures, beautiful beings, would be no longer, or would go extinct, or would have issues, you know. And then it's just about maintaining control. He's just not regretful of his human experience with the creatures. However, when he crossed, he definitely had a different perspective of things he could have done better for the creatures that were on their show, so that way he could prolong the existence of the creatures for the shows that no longer exist, because I think they use like animatronics, and they use like different lighting and stuff. I don't even think they have live creatures in circus shows anymore.
I don't think so either. Well, okay, let me ask you this. Were any of the animals mistreated by anyone in the circus?
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
What happened when you found things like that out?
Oh, so he's showing me this like drunken man back, he says, in there, you know, in the 1800s, that was caring for a breed of his elephants.
Yeah.
And there was this is sad. There was a little baby elephant, so cute. And the drunken man, just for no reason, was just really kicking the heck out of this little baby elephant. Oh, so sad.
Awful.
And I guess he just like went ballistic on him.
Yeah.
You know, he says,
Fired
I threw him out.
Fired him?
He got in a fight with him, and he threw him out. He wasn't there to have nonsense havoc. No. He says that's not what he was about. And he definitely didn't encourage anybody that worked for him to be assaulting of anyone or anything. And he's extremely like, you know, things happen. And he says during that time, he's bringing up, it continued like through prohibition and everything era. Just the workforce world, it wasn't there. He says there wasn't certain elements in play, especially with the circus. He says even now with the carnivals, you see it with the rides, how people don't take care of them sometimes, and there's incidences.
I know. My husband had an incident that, oh my God, it was not good.
Did he really?
Yeah. All right, let me ask you this. So what was your favorite, which was your favorite animal? Did you have, strong connection with anyone in particular?
The lions.
You like the lions. Okay.
He liked the lion. He had one favorite lion. He's saying Leo the lion. And he was so excited when he got to the other side and Leo greeted him.
Oh, that's so
He
sweet.
loved the tigers. He had a monkey. He had a pet monkey.
Oh.
I think his name was Henry, he's saying.
Okay.
And he had a little hat, like it looks like a concierge hat, like a little red hat with the gold talus coming down.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's so sweet.
He says he liked him until he tried to eat my daughter's kitten.
Really? Henry?
Yes.
Oh my gosh. That's over the top. Well, so what do you think about animal abuse that happens in today's world?
He says some people are just neurotic and arrogant, and it doesn't matter what generational gap or boundary or destination you go to in the world. Anywhere you go, there's going to be people with such issues of judgments on themselves, let alone other living, breathing beings. So obviously, he says, I've never condoned it. I don't like it. It's not who I've represented to be. And I still, from the other side, he doesn't encourage it.
Okay. Do you think your wife was your first true love and soulmate, or were you twin flames? Your first wife? I didn't know you had more than one.
So I think he was married twice. Because here's this thing, is this really great marriage friendship, kindredship, he says, best friend, supportive. He's saying she was a quiet woman. She was kind and she was very understanding, stood by his side and represented and supported him throughout their entire marriage. That came to an end, I believe, from her passing. I think it might have been cancer or something. Like, actually, I don't know if it was breast cancer, but like, I wouldn't be surprised if it was like some kind of breast cancer.
Okay.
But an undiagnosed issue of sorts. So I feel it was like more cancer. And then he says, there was a time of darkness. He says, and then there was a time of blossoming. So I feel that somebody else came into his world that brought energy, newness. He says vanity in ways that I love vanity. He loves looking good.
Yeah.
But she brought this element of, she used to make him laugh, and just fun and energy and wisdom, he says, in a surprising way. Because he had thought that he experienced life like fully until he met her. It was a surprise. It wasn't like he went looking. It just fell into place, and it was a right place, right time thing.
Which one is more your soulmate, the first or the second?
Actually, I was just about to answer that question before you even asked it. I think he knows what you're saying.
That. You're always failing it before I can. Yeah.
So he says that it's just really with this concept, it's not so much that one is more than the other. He says it's more about divine timing and who the angels allowed to come forward during the times I needed the most to have a partner in the ways that I did.
Okay.
So he doesn't like to sit there and go, it was her, or it was her. He says he gets
no. All right.
He says as any man would.
No, of course. Okay, what about your daughters? What happened to them? How
they're beautiful and elegant young ladies.
Yeah.
They were brought up with privilege, but there was this really beautiful thing about all of them was they were so grounded.
Yeah.
And so understanding and kind. And they said he's bringing up mentorships. So maybe in the business realm of things, he really like mentored and taught and worked with his daughters to teach them how. So they were very well educated. It's not in the sense that they were like, hey, these perfect young ladies that just, read books in the parlor.
Oh, yeah, right.
Something. No, he was all for them getting their education.
Good.
Make good decisions about the men that they chose in their life. That way he would be well represented, because he knew if they chose men, that that were not, he's saying, of breeding character, which means I believe what he's trying to say is just like good guys that didn't, disrespect him.
Right.
Felt that people would have something else to say about him, like,
better on you.
Yeah.
Okay.
He says your words are your reality.
Yeah.
And my word was very important to me.
Yeah. All right. So Cirque du Soleil, they do not use that. I forgot. This should have been asked earlier. Cirque du Soleil, it's kind of really the first time I saw an animal-free circus. What do you think about those types?
He says I was it first. Let's get that straight first.
Say that again?
He was it first. He brought the first acrobatics.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So you didn't start out with animals. Is that what you're saying? It was animal-free at first?
Correct.
Okay, good. But what do you think about that now? Do you think it's okay to use animals in a circus still?
He says, I think they're expensive.
Yeah, I bet. All right. So
he said it has a lot to do with their breeding rights as well.
Yeah, right.
There's so much intricacy, obviously, with today's standard. He says you can't just go pick up a lion, cub and be like, this is my pet.
No, you cannot. No, you cannot.
As much as I really love a little white baby tiger.
No, I always wanted a wildcat of some sort. Okay, so tell us, how did you lose your money, and did you regain it, or did you die penniless, or tell us about finances?
He just said something really funny when you were talking. He says he didn't like snakes.
Oh, okay.
Nothing to do with your question, but he's talking about like how much like he really didn't like snakes.
You better not watch the movie Anaconda, is all I can say.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry, what was the question again?
Yeah. I think you lost a great deal of your fortune some time in your life. Maybe it was the fire, burned up everything. Maybe there was something, other issues. Did you regain it back? Did you die with very little money, or did you die with a fortune, or what? And how did you lose it? And what happened toward the end, I guess?
Bad investments.
Okay.
Believing in the wrong concepts and the wrong people, because he had such a big heart, and he's saying how he always put all his money, like if there was two boxers, right, and one of them was absolutely like not gonna win, he always fought for the underdog. He put his everything into the underdog. He says, because I was an underdog. And he just put everything into that. And obviously that sometimes doesn't always turn like you like, and sometimes it can turn into a very large, amazing sum of money or sum of potential. So he made some difficult choices about things that were not just about like where he was putting his finances, like investing in certain properties, people, real estate opportunities, businesses that just really went under. And sometimes
was that bigger losses than the fire that burned your entire establishment to the ground?
He says that was just the beginning of the greatness, really. He says that brought opportunity upon opportunity, that it just really expanded his mind to think more. It was like, okay, clean slate.
Well, that's true.
Let's create more.
So how much do you have left at the end?
He's bringing up his partner real quick. I just want to.
Yeah, I want to ask about Bailey. Yes.
Okay, Bailey. And actually, Bailey's coming through right now. I want to let you know too.
Hello, yeah, Bailey's coming through. Thanks for joining the party.
He says, hello, ma'am. And he tips his hat at us. He is actually, they're like Jekyll and Hyde over here. He's softer. He's quieter. He's physically smaller. He's a lot more reserved.
Okay.
You have Barnum, who is just like beyond
flamboyant.
Whole energy is just like, boom, it's just huge. And then you have Bailey, who just is this really big compliment to him, that he's bringing up with the investment thing and how he got through stuff, that Bailey really like was the one to, he says he got him like no one else, other than his wives and his children. And he says this was, a brotherly kindredship. His guides brought Bailey in actually at a prescribed time. So it was divine timing that was pre-chosen before they even came here, and an agreement was made, a soul contract, a life contract. He says, you want to talk about a soulmate, doesn't need to be a woman.
Well, of course not. So
and not in the sexual sense.
Y'all were soulmates.
Right. And he really just grounded and helped Barnum, because I feel like he's showing me imagery right now about the fire. And then after that, he was just like going super eccentric. A lot of his bad investments were based off, before the fire, even before the fire. A lot of his bad investments were based off of just these thought processes that he had that were so extravagant, so big, so expensive. And everybody be looking at him like, what, you're crazy. And he was just getting worse and worse and worse with it. And then when Bailey came in, he really just kind of like had this way of communicating with them. But it's very funny because they're showing me in an office right now, right? And there's this desk, this old timer desk with piles of paper. And Barnum is going nuts, like, boom, the paper's off the table. What are you talking about? And Bailey's just kind of like, well, so they just had this really
great. He was the voice of reason.
Yes.
Probably saved him from really going under a lot more than he did.
He did. He did. So, he said he wouldn't have had a legacy. He wouldn't have had the traits, the qualities that the whole entertainment industry actually has come to be without that relationship, because it's not just about the circuses, it's about what they came, their ideas together. And
Right.
it's like Barnum would have these, he's calling it fantasies, but they were divine fantasies that were given to him by God.
Oh, cool.
You know, it was other people on the other side that were really like, he was super, he's saying conduitive. So it's not that he was, I mean, everybody can be a medium, but he just was really receptive about art and about ideas and creating things.
Well, he had gifts.
Yes, he
abilities.
did.
Yeah.
Yeah, very gifted.
So did he die penniless or with a fortune, or middle class, or?
He says he died with wellness.
Okay.
So yeah.
All right. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry. What were you going to say, Abby?
He was just talking about the entertainment industry again, and about how there's so many politics that actually laws that were made and things that were created. And he's showing me this giant fire that happened with like the big top.
Oh yeah.
And I feel like in history, I feel like I remember hearing about this back in like the 1950s or something. There was this huge fire and it killed a lot of people. But because of what the circus brought forward, there were a lot, just kind of like Titanic, like about how the safety boats, like now there has to be like a lot of things were brought forward for laws, legalities. He's bringing up your animal cruelty conversation here.
Yes.
You know, that protect people, protect patrons, protect the investors in their investments with these ideas and concepts, because they're so elaborate sometimes. But really, it was the beginning of entertainment as we all know it. He says.
I see. All the politics, all the regulations, etc.
All of
it. That makes total sense. All right. So what was your religion? I know I think you're an atheist, but it says something, I just looked at that you were into universalism. I don't even really know what exactly that is, but universalism is a philosophical and theological concept that some ideas have universal application or applicability. A belief in one fundamental truth is another important tenet. I don't understand what that is. A theological doctrine that all human beings will eventually be saved. The principles and practices of a liberal, no, I don't know. What religion were you?
He says there was no word for the legal doctrine necessarily that consumed him. He had his own ways. He's showing me actually tarot cards.
Oh, wow.
And he believed in the universal law of attraction.
Oh, wow.
He believed in manifestation. He in the power of people united, creating its own entity and its own energy. He believed in the godly love. And then he started saying the gospel. And he started laughing a little, not because he's laughing at it, but because he said he never read through it.
Oh, that's funny. No, I think I'm wrong about him being an atheist. I think a desire to save the soul of men. I just am not.
So back then, right, if you didn't go with certain, religious values, then you were considered certain religious things, or anti-religious things. He was so, one thing that movie got really on point that I'm getting from this man that's sitting before me and Bailey, it's just the love and the belief that he has in people, and making in strength and compassion in treating each other as human beings. That is just, he says that's what made the man right there. And he's showing me his top hat and like it getting just filled with all these magical, beautiful lights, right? And he's like,
image.
Yeah, and he's showing me it like all lighting up and illuminating and getting big, and then all of a sudden, poof, you know, and then he's there smiling like this.
Oh,
And
all
this
right. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
To the
No.
universalist, heaven in its essential nature is not a locality, but a moral and spiritual status. And salvation is not securing one place and avoiding another, but salvation is finding eternal life. Immortal life is existence, regardless of quality. Eternal life is right life, here, there, everywhere. That's one of his quotes. Phineas T. Barnum, in 1890. So, do you still go by that?
Yes, I do.
All right.
He says love is eternal. He says my name is eternal. The belief and power you have in people and people around you. He says that a lot of it's based on instinct and your own intuition and going forward with things for a just cause. Okay. He believes in the power of manifesting.
Yeah.
You create your thoughts, create your reality. And he's bringing up how, I feel like I knew this before, that he was actually like a mayor in Connecticut or something. And he's like bringing up how he created that, like, because he could, you know, who am I? But I did it because I wanted it.
Wow, that's pretty cool. Now, is there anything else before we go on to my usual questions, like spiritual mission and all that stuff? Anything else you want to say about your relationship with Mr. Bailey or Mr. Bailey? Would you like to say anything about Mr. Barnum?
So, Bailey is funny because he's saying that he's always the one just kind of standing back, and Barnum's the one that's always coming forward and talking. He preferred it that way.
Yeah,
so I don't think that he was like at a loss for anything. His life was very fulfilling. He had a very beautiful marriage. He had children himself. He's very satisfied with the adequacy of the, he's bringing up cross-dimensional experiences that he's had.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
In the multiple lives he's had. He likes to retain and maintain a lot of, like, when he goes into different lives and such, he likes to maintain his looks. Oh. He likes to maintain, he says, his appearance, as in, like, he looks very much, you know, like, have you seen people with past lives? They're like, oh, I remember I was this person. And then you see a picture, look identical.
Yes. Yeah.
God, kind of like Kim Voight with, what was it, Sarah from
right.
Yeah, she showed that picture and I was like, damn. Just like her.
Well, we'll go on to the generic-y questions. Mr. Barnum, what do you think your spiritual mission was here on earth when you were P.T. Barnum? And also, what were you to learn and teach? Because that could be in that same answer.
To maintain and entertain during an era where the existence of man could be very dark and dreary at times.
Yeah.
He was there to be a sleight of hand, to help you change your existence and to raise the eternal vibration of us all.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I mean,
because that's what makes
some entertainment, some enjoyment to distract them from their daily troubles,
from their mundane lives.
Yeah. All right, what were you here to learn?
Politics.
Okay. What was your biggest accomplishment?
My children.
Oh, wow. I thought you were going to say the circus. That's cool. What do you think your greatest lesson was? Or maybe this is the same question as what was your biggest regret, if any?
He traveled a lot. So I feel like he had girls.
Yeah.
And so like raising girls was an experience. And then like missing.
So he missed a lot.
He really loved his family.
Oh.
And he'd bring them with him when they could, but it was really important to them that they had a foundation. They had a nice home. They had consistency. So he missed a lot with them.
Okay.
He missed them. Like I'm seeing him on a train, like writing lots, letter after letter after letter after letter. And he really loved his wife.
Oh, that's great. All right. So, can you describe another life that most influenced your one as P.T. Barnum?
So he is bringing up in the Roman era, right? He says, I guess the word is, there was a word for it that doesn't exist now, but it's kind of like a jester of sorts. And he's showing me that, like, you know, like a leaf crown thing that they were wearing. And he used to entertain by creating and reading poetry when all of the politicians, I don't know what they called it in the Roman era, but all the politicians were sitting in this like acantheon kind of place, and they were all sitting there, and he would entertain them of sorts before the Roman emperor came in, and they made their rules and regulations, and the fights broke out and all the craziness that ensued with that. But he was the one that had a big billowy voice.
Oh.
And he loved how it sounded in the room that he was in, because the way that the roof was shaped, it was like this. It was like a half dome. And then with the pillars, he's saying the echo and the radiation of the echo. And he says it was so vibrational, how you could sometimes just even hear a pin drop and hear it even with all those people. And he loved how the vibrations in his voice really could set the mood for the environment of how the political conversations went.
That is cool. All right. Is there anything that you want to share that really nobody knows about you? Something fun or cute or anything, really?
He is showing me this like little teddy bear that's like this big. This little teddy bear. I don't know if he had one son.
I don't think
or a son that died. I don't really know. I'm not gonna go there because he's not giving me a direct answer about that. But he had this little teddy bear in his pocket. That if he felt like he needed luck, or just sometimes he wanted to, whoever gave him this little teddy bear, he wanted to be close to him, he would just like stick him in his pocket during the performance. So
did you ever get nervous? Well, maybe at first, but before you went into the center stage, so to speak.
So in front of people, he was meant to do that.
Okay, so not really a big guy, public figure, you know.
I feel like at first, because he just wanted people to like him and like the show.
Yeah.
You know, he just wanted to make people happy and smile and have a great time. So it was like, he was the ringleader. So he's the one that, you know, coined the term the ringleader. So he was trying to make like everything flow. He says, I got to make sure the popcorn's popping. I got to make sure the elephants aren't stomping on people. You know,
really, let's not have that. All right.
Or the monkey that eats the cat. You know?
What was your favorite act that you had for the circus?
So he is bringing up the opera performer.
Oh, okay.
The sound of her voice.
Okay.
It really just spoke to him.
Well, what about Under the Big Top though? Because I don't think she was part of
it. She sang Under the Big Top. Like there were performers that sang Under the Big Top.
What was your second favorite then?
He liked the
acrobats,
the trapeze routines. He always but he more like held his breath because he was just so fascinated how he was worried, you know, because he didn't want anybody.
I would be worried too.
Yeah.
Were there a lot of deaths under your watch? Human deaths?
He says there were tragedies.
Okay.
And we mourned them. And not all because of mistakes that were made, but because of the sign of the times, with sickness, because it was not the most ideal conditions. Sometimes working where they were camping. And you know,
did you employ children?
He's saying dysentery. So there, like there were quite a few tragic deaths, and like as the train went on, this is crazy. As the train went on, like they would bury some of their people like under a beautiful tree or something like along the way. Have families, and they wouldn't really tell me because they didn't, you know. So it was just
What about children? Did you employ children? You probably did. They run away to join the circus.
Yeah, he did. He's bringing up this little boy that was only like 6 years old, and he had him. Well, I guess the little boy wanted to feed the snakes.
Oh, wow. Was he eaten by the snakes?
They were the venomous ones, but
like, oh, good.
Like,
was he an orphan?
He employed, huh?
Was he an orphan?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Any
get quite messages? A few little orphans along the way that actually they had adopted on the show, like on the road, and they were part of the family. And then they would grow up with the circus family and pick their act and live it and love it, and that was their world. So
okay, actually, I only have two more questions. Actually, I do. Sure. I forgot one. Is there any work you do now from the other side? If so, what is that?
He still creates entertainment.
Okay.
He still loves to mystify people. He influences people. He's still a big,
mostly influence entertainers. Is that what you're saying?
He likes to influence entertainers.
Okay.
He's bringing me up to like David Copperfield.
Oh, interesting. Oh, I bet.
He always had he says, it's not just the animals I loved. It was the true magic. Yeah. The true experience of the sleight of hand. Yeah. He was fascinated by it and practiced day and night himself. He was a magician in his own mind.
I did not know that.
He really enjoyed it. And he loves still working with performers, doing those kinds of mystifying. He'll help them with. He's showing me lists and lists and lists of tricks and ideas and how to do things.
That's cool. I would love to know how to do that stuff. I mean, they just astound me, some of the magic acts I have seen.
Mm-hmm. He also still to this day, he still actually influences things. He likes to get involved politically a little here and there. There are some political movements. One of them was actually, this is really cool. Ruth Bader was her name.
Oh yeah, right. Ginsburg.
Yeah. He had something to do with the thought process of her coming into office.
Oh, wow. Interesting. Well, that makes sense with your women's rights things. Any final messages for the world?
Thank you, one and all. May you all enjoy your day.
Children of all ages. Okay.
Just remember to have fun with it all.
Yeah. Erik or Abby, do you want to ask any questions? Are we done? Are we want to wrap it up?
I think let me check in with Erik here. Erik's just sitting there eating popcorn.
Oh my God, of course. Perfect. Now I'm hungry for popcorn. All right. Well, thank you so much, P.T. Barnum and Mr. Bailey.
Thank you.
All right, and thank you, Abby. Thank you, Erik, for bringing them through. And I love you. I love you all. Abby, okay, first of all, y'all be sure you check out channelingerik.com and the YouTube channel Channeling Erik, which is on. Be sure to subscribe, hit the notification bell, like the video if you can. And also the Atlanta Scalar YouTube channel is pretty cool too. Check that out and like and subscribe and get the notification. And Abby, how can people get in touch with you? And what do you have to offer?
You can find me at brightsidemedium.com. I do energy reading work and just regular readings, which I love doing them all. And then, or you can find me on Facebook, Brightside Medium, or Abby Dagnes.
You also are a very powerful healer, I understand. So if they want a healing, energy healing, can they connect with you in that same way?
Yeah. Okay. Absolutely.
All right. Sounds great. Thank you. I want to ask you one question. I'll end it, but then I want to ask you a question.